Good evening. It's Thursday, January 6th. Let's get you caught up on the biggest stories of the day.
And we begin this evening with the chief medical officer of Grady Hospital and his thoughts on surging COVID-19 cases across the state. Our Megan Packer has the latest.
Every bed here is full, Rick and Sean. I can tell you that as more people continue to show up looking for care. And while the Omicron variant does look a bit different in patients who are sick compared to what doctors saw with previous surges, the chief medical officer here tells me he does have some concerns as numbers continue to rise.
We have patients in every nook and cranny that we can find.
Inside Grady Hospital, a strained staff is doing everything they can to keep up with a record number of patients needing admission. Beds are 100% full, about 40% with COVID patients, according to Chief Medical Officer Dr. Robert Jansen.
We have more patients now than we have ever had at any one point in time.
Still, fatigued and frustrated doctors and nurses continue to show up when they can.
Our staff is vaccinated, but they are still getting infected, generally with very mild symptoms. But when they're infected, they have to stay home. So it's exacerbated that shortage that we already were experiencing.
Dr. Jansen says most patients are unvaccinated. With the Omicron variant, fewer are on ventilators and needing critical care.
We are seeing less COVID-related pneumonias, which is what we saw with the earlier variants. What we're really seeing is Omicron seems to make people moderately ill, but it exacerbates their underlying illness.
Pediatric hospitals are also seeing high numbers.
This variant is really disrupting life.
Dr. Kiana Washington is a Gwinnett County pediatrician who says her office is struggling to keep up with all of the cases that are mostly mild in children of all ages.
I'm concerned that there's going to be an issue with kids staying in school, both from a contagious issue as well as from a staffing issue.
Now here at Grady, they are admitting some people who have been vaccinated against COVID. Dr. Jansen says it tends to be people who are vaccinated early on and have not received a booster. He also says vaccinated people with underlying medical conditions tend to be among those getting sick right now. We are live outside of Grady Hospital. Megan Packer, CBS 46 News.
Megan, thank you. Tonight, a live look from the U.S. Capitol. Our nation reflecting 1 year after a violent mob stormed Capitol Hill. President Biden visited the same building today.
Those who stormed this Capitol, and those who instigated and incited, and those who called on them to do so, held a dagger at the throat of America, at American democracy.
The images from that day are chilling, of course. Thousands of people broke into the Capitol building and marched through the halls of Congress. 5 people died. Since then, more than 700 people have been arrested, many of them pleading guilty. And as we were watching from the outside, Georgia lawmakers were taking cover on the inside of the Capitol.
CBS 46 anchor Tracy Hutchins joins us in studio after speaking with many of them. Tracy.
Well, Sean and Rick, for many of them, it was a day filled with fear and uncertainty. They knew very little about what was going on outside of the Capitol. It wasn't until later that they truly realized the threat they were under.
Looking back on it, I can see that we were in even greater danger than I perceived while going through it.
Huddled on the House floor balcony,
I actually saw my life pass in front of my eyes.
Georgia Congressman Hank Johnson wasn't sure he'd survive that day at the Capitol.
For a second, I realized how possible it was for me to not make it out of that situation.
Newly elected Congresswoman Nikema Williams was in her office after being sworn in just 3 days earlier.
We closed our blinds, turned off location services on our phone, and got away from the windows and the desk and hid out for hours.
The doors were locked. People were banging on the doors.
Congresswoman Carolyn Bordeaux was in her office, having just been sworn in too.
These were folks who had been misled that the election was stolen and then been incited to march on the Capitol and try to stop the certification of the election results. And they did it in a way that was quite violent.
Georgia Republican Representative Austin Scott sent me a statement saying, in part, those who crossed the line and committed crimes are being held accountable for their actions in the criminal justice system. But some lawmakers, like Kwanzaa Hall, who was near the Capitol that day, fear this could happen again.
Because I think the same energy, the same forces, actually it has probably increased, and they've just gone underground.
And as a Black woman in Congress, I am often reminded that I'm operating in a system that was not designed by or for people who look like me. But Tracy, I am determined every day to make this system work for all of us.
And I did reach out to other Georgia Republicans in Congress. Representative Buddy Carter sent me a statement saying that he condemned the violence of January 6th, but says Democrats are using the day to further divide the country. And Congressman Andrew Clyde posted concerns about mistreatment of January 6th defendants on his Facebook page. Sean?
Tracy, thank you. A Decatur church is left with serious damage after a car plows into the front of the building. New video shows the destruction at Mount Patmos Baptist Church on Candler Road. A church official says the car was involved in a chase, lost control. Police say no one was hurt.
New developments tonight. A Peachtree City business owner who paid an employee his final paycheck in pennies is now being sued.
They're covered in something. Don't know what it is, but it smells funny.
The employee says he found the pennies in his driveway last March. The owner of AOK Auto Works, Miles Walker, was reportedly behind the stunt. The U.S. Labor Department is now suing Walker for $36,000.
If an employee contacts our office, because they have a concern about how they're being compensated, they have protections under the law that they cannot be retaliated against or discriminated against.
I didn't think they'd do anything, so it's really good to see that justice will be served, or at least trying, and then, hopefully it's a lesson taught for sure.
Walker's co-worker says he doesn't have any comment at this time. Breaking news in Noonan, a 10-year veteran on the force has died after a battle with COVID. Alan Devlin live at the Breaking News desk. Alan.
Absolutely, Rick. Very, very sad news coming out of Noonan. The police department tells us everyone will be missing Officer Ricky Tostensen in his recent passing. The Noonan Police Department made the announcement today. Officer Tostensen served a total of 18 years in law enforcement and most recently was assigned to the SRO unit working at Evans Middle School, where he was known to the students as Officer T. The department is asking for all to keep his family in your thoughts and prayers at this difficult time. We'll keep you updated on funeral arrangements as they become available. From the Breaking News desk, I'm Alan Devlin. Back to you guys in the studio.
Our thoughts certainly with that family. Alan, thank you. Chopper 46 flying over a gaping hole in a Decatur church after a car drove right through the front of that house of worship. This happened at Mount Patmos Baptist Church on Candler Road just before noon today. Police tell us no one was hurt. We are still working to learn what caused that driver to crash. An
Atlanta man says he was almost hit by celebratory gunfire New Year's Eve. Anthony Ramsey says when the clock struck midnight, he heard several loud booms and fireworks. He says that he thought the fireworks were hitting his home, but when he went outside to take a look, he didn't see anything. Later, when he was getting ready to go to sleep, he saw a hole in his ceiling and found a bullet on the floor. Ramsey hopes his incident will make the city consider adding gunshot detection technology to more communities.
Now to a consumer alert tonight. Bed Bath & Beyond closing 200 stores across the nation, and 2 are right here in the metro. One is at the Atlanta store at Perimeter Center. The other is in Marietta at the Avenue in East Cobb. The company announced the plans to close the stores 2 years ago as part of a multi-year transformational plan.
Well, if you left Taco Bell, you can get a discount when you prepay. The fast food chain is rolling out a new subscription service. It's called the Taco Lovers Pass. So for $10 a month, customers can get 1 taco a day for 30 days, 30 straight days, but it only applies if they're members of the restaurant's rewards program and have downloaded the app.
And Goldman Sachs predicting the price of Bitcoin could hit $100,000 within 5 years. It is currently around $43,000, about 2/3 of what it was during its all-time high in November. Goldman Sachs believes that the digital assets will grow in popularity. It says that could cause the price of Bitcoin to more than double.
The COVID-19 pandemic forced many businesses to find new and safer ways to interact with customers. One of the most popular, touchless technologies are these QR codes that we often see right here. But our national investigative team found scammers are finding ways to exploit them. Investigate TV's Sandra Jones breaks it down in this consumer crackdown.
You may have seen these pixelated squares or QR codes popping up everywhere now. They're easy to use. Just open up your phone camera and they'll quickly redirect you to a website or a place to make a payment. But the BBB warns not to scan every QR code you see. From restaurants to retailers, QR codes have become the new norm during the pandemic.
I think they're a pretty great idea.
Manager Lily Aguirre of Lulu Boutiques in Washington, D.C., put this QR sticker in the window to direct people to the store's website. But some experts are sounding the alarm because scammers are creating their own codes that could impact business owners.
I think it's really about constantly changing up the technology for it, and that means really encrypting our information, and that I think it's maybe something that needs to take place every 6 months.
The BBB says scammers are putting phony QR codes over legitimate ones in stores or on restaurant menus. The code takes you to a phishing website, prompting you to enter your personal information or login credentials for scammers to steal. In other cases, con artists use QR codes to automatically launch payment apps or follow malicious social media accounts.
You don't necessarily want to just scan any QR code you see in public. You want to make sure it's from someone you trust or from an establishment you trust.
Eden Ishel at the National Consumers League says it can be hard to tell the difference between a real QR code and a phony one. On top of QR codes, be wary of short links.
So you can look to see if maybe it is a misspelled version of the site that you actually intended to go to, and that could be a red flag. Or maybe a lot of times scammers use shortened URLs, and that is used to obscure the actual real destination.
The BBB points out how you can avoid getting scammed. If someone you know sends you a QR code, confirm before scanning it. Verify the source, whether it's from a reputable source or a government agency. Call or visit their website, and watch out for advertising materials that have been tampered with. The Better Business Bureau says you can also install a QR scanner before using one of these, which has added security. Some antivirus companies have QR scanner apps that check the safety of a link before you open it. If you've been a victim of a QR scam, report it to your local Better Business Bureau. With this Consumer Crackdown, I'm Sandra Jones.
Thanks for watching CBS 46 News. Watch us live wherever you are, our mobile and our streaming news app. You can also watch us on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV.